Oh, excuse me. Oh, hello. No one's even here yet. Thinking I should drop dead, eat shit, go to hell. I could jump head first out the window. Dark thoughts keep up running out in my mind. Whoa, kinda wanna get fucked. Make love to a chainsaw. Wrap my drop top round a lamppost. Me. Ugh, not sure if I'm coming back down this time. Anyway, I mean, I'm only doing this tonight for fucking people I missed last night doing chart readings and shit. So I was gonna give people an opportunity. No one shows up. I got fucking other stuff to do, you know? So, god damn, I just hit my knee. I did that all for you people, you know? So, I was just roller skating a little bit ago, so I'm all like sweaty and stuff, you know? My hair's all messed up. My makeup got all messed up, you know, like I was doing naughty things. But no, no, it was roller skating. I love roller skating so much. I really do. Today's the day of, oh my goodness, look at how gorgeous this person is. Anyway, sorry. Today's the day of the Venus Superior conjunction. I've talked about that a lot. No one wants to hear about that. There's so much else going on. You know, Mars is about to change signs in just a little bit. Mars has been in Aries, where he's quite happy. And he's going to go into Taurus, where he's not so happy. You know, when I think of Mars in Taurus, my brother has this. I know quite a few other people who have it. And it's notorious for being lazy, you know? It's notorious for being a little lazy. It's hard to get up and get going. I always joke around that, you know, Mars in Taurus is sort of like if Sisyphus just said, fuck it. You know? You might remember that Sisyphus was that character down in Hades who pushed the ball up the hill for eternity. And then as soon as he got to the top, it would, you know, drop him back down. So I'm going to give people a couple more minutes, but if I don't see people here, you know, to do chart readings and shit, because the point of this was to do chart readings. I had shit to talk about yesterday, and y'all just wanted fucking chart readings. Whoa, maybe I should get fucked. Make love to a chainsaw. Wrap my drop top round a lamppost. Don't know if I'm coming back down this time. Live now. Link below. Waste of fucking time, you know? Well, whatever. Link below. I'll hang out for a little bit and just keep talking because it's easy for me to keep talking, even if it's by myself. It's a talent of mine, just being able to fill space with words. I don't know if that's a talent necessarily, if it's more of a vice, you know. It can be quite annoying for people because some people just want to savor the moment. Let's have a moment of silence. Like, no, it's too uncomfortable for me. Let's have a moment of loudness. Let's do the la grita, you know? I'm not going to do that right now. It's sort of insensitive, but you know, being very loud. So anyway, when does Mars go into Taurus? I think it's June 11th. Is it June 11th? No, it's June 8th. So it's very close here. It's just a few days. Oh, hello. Hello, Bex. Well, no one came except for you. This was supposed to be a makeup for those people who didn't get their charts read last night. So there were like 4 who didn't get it. And now they're not here. So if anyone wants their chart read, just please put your birth information in the chat. In the chat. But so Mars goes into Taurus on June 8th, right? And like I said, Mars has been very, very happy in Aries because Mars rules Aries. We talked a little bit last night about essential dignities. And you could check that out for a little recap, but suffice it to say that planets are happier in the signs that they rule. Many of them also have signs of exaltation, right? So for example, right, Mars rules Aries and Scorpio, right? Venus rules Taurus and Libra. Mercury rules Gemini and Virgo, right? The sun rules Leo. The moon rules Cancer. You know, those are the 2 luminaries. So they only, right, rule one sign. The rest of the 5 planets, the other 5 planets rule 2 signs. This is traditional astrology, mind you. I don't do so much of the modern stuff anymore. Because this is so much more practical, quite honestly. But so planets are the happiest in signs that they rule. For example, Mars, it's Aries and Scorpio. Then they're second happiest in their sign of exaltation. For Mars, that's Capricorn. Right? Excuse me. Lakeisha, hi. Yeah, it's 5 p.m. here. Last night we had like 16 people or 20 people. So, yeah, I guess I didn't hype this up a bit. I'm only doing this for people who didn't get their charts read last night. And I look like shit. I was just roller skating, getting all gross. But anyway, Mars is what's called in detriment or exile in Taurus, right? Because he doesn't know what to do with himself there, right? In Scorpio, it's like Mars turned inward, right? Whereas Aries is like Mars turned outward. And so Scorpio is like Mars in the dark, right? Taking those jabs, right? It still has that same fuerza, right? That same force, that same aggression. But when it's in Scorpio, it's of a feminine nature. It's of an introspective type nature. It's a subtler type nature, you see? And it's watery as opposed to fiery like Aries. So we think of, rather than the warrior, we think of the assassin, right? Who slips in the night and, you know, takes you out, right? So think about the opposite. Hi, cat. Why you bitching at me? You should have eaten your food, homie. Gave you your food. Fed you. But you see, Mars in Taurus then, right? Think of the opposite. It's bumbling, you know? It's imprecise. It's, you know, it's hard to get it going. It's hard to get, you know, you think of Mars and Scorpio, and it's like revenge, right? Mars is very happy in Scorpio, but I make jokes about Mars and Scorpio. I'm like, yo, it's the one placement that would cut off its own nose if it would spite your face. Excuse me. Right? Revenge. Right? That's the quintessential revenge place. I think, what, 4? Maybe 5 of my past partners have had Mars and Scorpio. I just can't stop with it, you know. It's hot. It's hot, but it can be very not nice too. They know how to sting you. What, cat? Stop yelling at me. Stop yelling at me, cat. Anyway, so Mars in Taurus is sort of notorious Taurus, for not being able to get going, right? I'm not saying it's lazy, but, well, I am saying it's lazy, or it can be, right? It could be very blunt. Once they get angry, though, it's hard for them to calm down. You know, Taurus is a fixed sign, right? If anyone wants to start putting their birth information in the chat, please start doing it, because then we can read charts for you. You see? Otherwise, I'll just keep filling up the space talking about fucking Mars and Taurus. I could even do horoscopes for Mars and Taurus for each rising sign. But it'll be interesting because whatever house Mars is transiting in your chart, it's going to indicate where you have conflicts, right? The primary conflicts. Yeah, for me, Taurus is the 4th house. So oftentimes it would be the parents or the family legacy or something to do with the home, right? Sometimes it's things breaking around the home and we have to get them fixed. I'm really hoping it's not that, because I don't want to spend any more money, right? Mars going through the 1st house, we can have conflicts with ourselves, right? Usually we're more assertive and aggressive, of course, but we also tend to get hurt more, you see? We tend to get hurt more. Maybe I should drop dead, eat shit, go to hell. I could jump head first out the window. Dark thoughts keep on filling up in my mind. That's the new Bring Me the Horizon song. I can't get it out of my head. It's really good. I like it. I love Bring Me the Horizon. We'll do Zelda's chart. The Legend of Zelda. The Legend of Zelda, yes. Anyway, when Mars goes through your 2nd house, you gotta watch spending money, you know? Hi, it's Jill Fisher Music, which, if I'm not mistaken, that is my homeboy. My homeboy. Hermie. Tyler, right? Is this Tyler? I think so. I think this is Tyler. Anyway, I'll stop talking about Mars for a second. We'll talk about Mars more in people's charts. And then Venus also goes into Cancer later this month, which is fun for me because I have Venus in Cancer. You know, I'm a total slut, but I also am so lovey-dovey, right? I'm a mommy. I'm such a Cancer Venus mommy. Anyway, let's go to your chart here for The Legend of Zelda. The Legend of Zelda. We got January 16th, 81, 11 p.m. exactly. 11 p.m. exactly. Harrow, UK. Oh, I think Zelda is astrology. I think that's who you are. I think that's who you are. That's wonderful. Kinda wanna get fucked, make love to a chainsaw. I think this is because I recognize that you told me that you had Pluto in the 1st house and Libra rising and a Gemini moon and your Capricorn sun, if I'm not mistaken. Cool. I think this is astrology. It's so interesting because you have Saturn, Pluto, and Jupiter all in the 1st fucking house. Sorry, that's my brother. Shut up. Yeah, see? I'm not stupid. Stupid like a fox. You know, foxy lady. Anyway, Libra rising. I love Libra rising. I mean, you know, your rising is trine my rising. You've got, my moon is conjunct your Pluto. That's really funny. That's very interesting. And your Mercury's conjunct my rising. That's quite interesting. So anyway, though, when you, I mean, you got all these guys in your 1st house. When I see Saturn in the 1st house, first of all, Saturn's exalted, right? So he's a bit happier. As far as Libra goes for terms, I have all the dignities here on my wall. Oh, that would be, what would be? I guess that would be the Mercury term or bound. You have a night chart. So Saturn is extra unhappy at night. but he enjoys being in a sign of exaltation, which is interesting to me, but the symbolism of Saturn being exalted in Libra, right? Because Saturn, well, this sun was considered the judge, right? For the most part. But Saturn is the judge in terms of, judging the dead and all that sort of thing, being the ruler of death. And there's something about the judge being exalted, right? Where Libra is sort of the place of judgment. And you could think about Saturn as the lord of karma, the dispenser of all that sort of thing. Exalted, and in this case, exact stationary. I wonder why it didn't put an S here if it's stationary. That's interesting. You usually should put an S there. But when I see Saturn in the first house, I think about people who tend to look through their value through others. Oftentimes it leads us to codependency and codependent relationships. When Jupiter's in the first house, of course, it lends itself to having inflated sense of confidence and ego or whatever. But you see, these two are conjunct. Saturn rules your 5th house and your 4th house. So I wonder number one, if you have any children. But I wonder, number two, if dad was sort of, very much into his own shit. Perhaps a narcissist type. Or maybe, since it's such a happy Saturn, you saw dad as sort of a role model or something like that. I don't know. But usually I think that Saturn in the first house, ruling the 4th house, would be, a dad who was way more into his own shit and just never really around, Pluto in the first house, too, just, it makes us creepy. People just don't like being around us. Well, we instigate people or we're provocative. People get all weird. Like, who the fuck does she think she is? Why does she act like that? You're not doing anything. You're just breathing, but it's the presence that Pluto in the first house exudes. I have Pluto square in my ascendant. It's sort of a similar thing. Pluto in aspect to the ascendant, especially hard aspect to the ascendant, makes us often rejected and reviled by people because, quite frankly, there's sort of an intense presence that makes people uncomfortable. And you got a moon in the 9th house in Gemini. Moon in the 9th house, I have moon in the 9th house too. It makes us those kinds of fucking kids, that are always asking the difficult questions. And we get very annoying, especially to religious type parents, right? Because we're always saying things like, how do you know? Why does this exist? How do I exist? Is God really real? And how do you know? We get interested in philosophy, right? Father of paranoid POS. Scorpio, Sun, Moon, Mercury, Venus, with Mars in Capricorn. Well, Mars exalted. And you've got Venus in Capricorn too. I think of Venus in Capricorn as sort of like a Tootsie Pop, right? It's got this hard shell with this warm, gooey center, right? This sweet, gooey center. But instead of a hard candy shell, it's more of like a hard, ice-flavored shell, right? And you have to dig between those layers to get to the gooey center. I wonder if there's an appreciation of history that you have, or something that ties you to your national identity. I don't want to say necessarily a sense of patriotism, but something about the family history, perhaps. When I see Mars in the 5th house, like I had to, makes us super sexual, doesn't it? And Mercury in the 5th house, it's sort of like someone who needs to have fun, a playful mind, loves jokes, likes to goof off, And look, Mars is exactly trying the Moonity Moon, right? The moon. So this gives someone a passionate demeanor, can make someone a bit of an arguer. I mean, it's a loose conjunction, but Mercury conjunct Mars, that's a total arguer too. And you have your North Node in the 11th house, on the opposite position of mine, right? Whereas I get more consumed by sex and pleasure as I get older. You get consumed more perhaps by idealism or a cause or things that are bigger than you. Maybe perhaps popularity or putting yourself out there in a way, But pulled strongly to roots which are very much elsewhere. Yeah, I mean, The fourth house is often the homeland and the family legacy and the genealogy. So it's wherever you experience your roots to be, you know. Anyway, in terms of timing right now, though, you're having the superior conjunction in your ninth house conjunct your moon. And Jupiter's just gone into your ninth house too. So you see the emphasis here is all about expanding your worldview, finding new spiritual paths or ideas or philosophical affinities, you know. It's learning new things. Sometimes we find a mentor. That's a thing that happens too with the ninth house stuff. So interesting things to be aware of. Foreign travel's another thing. Doesn't have to be to another country. Although in Europe and the UK, everything's so small and close together. I would imagine it would be. You know, it's a lot easier to travel in Europe than it is to travel like in the United States, really. Or the United States to Europe, or et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You know, there's a greater latitude in the EU, although the UK is no longer part of the EU. I'm sorry, there's a fly that is occupying my attention, and I really want to get him, but I will not do it, because I don't want to get up. Your 10th house ruler, though, is the moon in the 9th house, which often indicates, right, that either astrology or academia or some of that shit is going to be part of your career or what you're known for, you know. So that's quite interesting, you see. Your 7th house ruler is Mars in the 5th house. I have my 7th ruler in the 5th house too. And that often indicates that we need fun, sexual, playful partners, right? People who can joke around with us, who can have fun with us and not just be all heavy all the time. You know, like a couple of catharses every once in a while is okay, but like not every fucking week. Like we need to have some fun, some levity. And they have to be able to keep up with our sexual appetite, you know? So that's the thing. It typically is the thing, you see? But back to timing. You see, there's so much focus here in the 9th house, which is a wonderful thing, you see, especially given your work and what you do and your spiritual path, you see, and all that sort of thing. Like the 9th house can even be the antithesis of a spiritual path. Like I have Saturn in the 9th house, right? And that's sort of like, and it's the anti-spiritual path, which is still sort of a spiritual path in some ways, right? Right? The union of contradictions, which is a philosophical thing too. Been reading some Buddhist logic lately. Well, then Mars is going to go into your 8th house, which after being in your 7th, which could have created conflicts in relationships. Going into your 8th house, there are the consequences of those conflicts, which may be monetary, right? Oftentimes when Mars goes into the 8th house, we have unforeseen expenses that we have to, you know, deal with. Sometimes we have to put stuff on credit. Sometimes things sort of, it's like, shit, I gotta get my car fixed, or I gotta get, you know, get this fixed or that fixed, or there's a leak or something, right? And we have to spend a bit of money. And I wonder if debt is already an issue for you with Chiron in the 8th house. I actually do still look at Chiron. Fucking knee, yo. Anyway, I would worry about debt or the tendency towards overspending or spending beyond our means, things like that. And then also having a familiarity with death as a young person, right? Probably before the age of 30. You know, having a lot of encounters or a significant encounter with death as you were growing up. You don't really have any retrogrades in your chart. Anyway, that's Mars. I'll be glad when Mars leaves the square to my Sun in opposition to my Pluto, so I'm ready for the 8th house transit, to be honest. Yeah. Yeah, it is opposite your Pluto. Although I have I have Pluto on my ascendant trying my Mars and Sun right now. And those slow Pluto transits, when they're forming aspects to your stuff, and it lasts a long time. Like even Saturn aspects can last a long time. That shit's difficult. At least Mars moves relatively quickly, you know. at least quicker, significantly quicker. Well, so I hope you enjoy that. But you see, Taurus is not a fun place for Mars. So the houses that Mars rules will typically suffer, you know. So Scorpio, the second house, which is money again. You know, and the seventh house is highlighted again, which is relationships. So there could still be difficulties there. Squabbles and arguments about money. I don't know if that's a thing, but it could be. So anyway, Venus is about to go into Cancer, your 10th house. And when Venus goes into your 10th house, I'm like, yo, get your resume ready. Or try and be visible. Sometimes people can give you a leg up or a boost, right? Venus is often women that come into our lives, right? Sometimes it's a boss or a mentor or just a friend, right? Who can elevate our visibility in some way. You know, this is a time to look good and a time to get good recognition and all that sort of thing, right? That's going to be happening the 17th, I believe. I believe I can fly. Oh my God, that's R. Kelly. That's disgusting. I shouldn't say that. Ew. It just got like popped into my head because of all this nonsense. Anyway, we should go on to someone else. Or is Zelda the only person? Zelda's the only person. Well, ain't that a blimp? Ain't that a blimp? Maybe I'll look at your progressions. I love progressions. I love progressions. It's just you and me, Zelda. I swear I had 20 people here last night. So. And then people got upset. I didn't get to their charts. I had to go. And I'm like, well, yo, come back tonight and I'll do it tonight. And then, no, they don't show. Your progressed Saturn went retrograde at some point. Isn't that interesting? Whatever, yo. Like, if more people don't share their shit in here, then I will probably go and do other things. Because I need to work on video scripts. I'm going to do a video about Lilith. The history, well, Black Moon Lilith. The history of Lilith, right, in terms of mythology and all that sort of thing, going back to ancient Sumer. And then, you know, what Black Moon Lilith is in astrology, when it got popular, sort of how that the new significations of Lilith came up, and then what it means, what Lilith means through the houses. Lilith moves, you know, relatively slow-ish, so I don't really look at Lilith through the signs, to be honest. I more look at Lilith through the houses. I don't know why I don't have Lilith on here right now. I should. Excuse me. Your progressed Venus went into Pisces not that long ago. Oh, you're still here. Fisher Music. Is that Taylor? Tyler? Taylor or Tyler? I can't remember, my love. But anyway, gosh, you progressed. Jupiter, Pluto, and Saturn all went retrograde at some point. And your progressed Mercury is stationing right now. Let's go back just a little bit, and then we'll go to Tyler's. I hope I'm saying that correct. Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my God. Your progressed Mercury is stationing right now. Stationing. This is an interesting process. Because, look here. We get into early, or I guess mid-2025, and your progressed Mercury stations direct. This is a life-changing event, you see. Because we often change life direction. Right? We change course of our lives. Some people start a whole new enterprise. Some people choose a whole new path, right? One of the big things I think about with this, my progressed Mercury went direct when I was 3 years old, and I had this crazy spiritual experience that made me obsessed with consciousness and set me on this way for the rest of my life, right? It started when I was 3, when this shit went direct. It doesn't have to be an internal thing, though. Sometimes it's a total career change. I think of this astrologer named Alan White, who, when his progressed Mercury went retrograde, or I think it was retrograde, not direct, but he started astrology. He had been a military person before that, Vietnam veteran, right? Army person. And, oh no, it's Jill. I'm sorry, Jill. Okay, I'll go back to you. Jilly. All those first house planets were retrograde within a week of your birth, so. Oh, okay. So that's been a while, because you think of Saturn, a progressed Saturn retrograde is sort of being confining. And then when it goes direct, like mine did a few years ago, it's like being let out of your cage. And it's when I quit my job of 20 years. You see, you are approaching over the next few years, though, your next progressed new moon, which will be quite significant. Quite significant. Those are life-changing as well. It's like starting off at square one. But you see here, progressed Mercury stationing. This is such a big thing. This is such a big thing. I love this for you. Progressed moon in Capricorn, though, for a little bit. It's not necessarily fun. When did that go in? Just went in recently. Just went in recently. When does the progressed moon go into Aries for you? 2026. Or sorry, Aquarius, rather. Not Aries. Aquarius. So when that happens, that'll be quite fun, yo. That'll be quite fun. When did progressed Venus go into Pisces? That was relatively recent. Couple years. Maybe I should drop dead, eat shit, go to hell. I could jump head first out the window. Dark thoughts filling up in my mind. Whoa. Okay, look. So your progressed Venus went into Pisces, where she's exalted, right? Very imaginative and feeling beautiful, right? May of last year. So almost exactly a year ago, your progressed Venus went into Pisces. So that must have been life-changing too, or I'd expect that to be, you know. Helps with owning all this Saturn, but Aquarius gives that too. Yeah, I mean, just the moon isn't very happy in Capricorn. I mean, with progressions, though, like, dignities don't apply in the same way, you know? Like, it's the weirdest thing. I've noticed that dignities don't apply in the same way when they, with progressions. You see? Because you could see good events with ill-dignified things in progression and vice versa. Anyway, so let's move on to Jilly Jill. Jillity. From Beverly, UK. Thinking I should drop dead, eat shit, go to hell. I could jump head first out the window. Do I have Jill's chart in my queue? I thought he had your chart for some reason, but it's not. Kinda wanna get fucked, make love to a chainsaw. Wrap my drop top round a lamppost. 6/28/58. 1958. 10:40 a.m. And it was Beverly. Beverly. There we go. Oh, look, we got a Gemini Venus. Got a Gemini Venus, Cancer Sun. Ooh, your Mercury's conjunct my Venus. Look at that. Your Venus is conjunct my Sun and Mars. That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. Your Mars is opposite my Moon. I just noticed little things like this. You see? But anyway, you got Pluto in the first house also. It's not quite conjunct your ascendant. I mean, I guess you could say it's just really, really wide. But that same stuff applies, the whole creepy thing. You know? Like instigating people's energy when you walk into a room. Like it's not purposeful, it just is. It just happens. You've been having your Mars return. So that's been fun for you. But see, Mars in the 8th house, once again, like I said earlier, there's the difficulty with money thing. And that means and your North node's in the 2nd house, which puts your South node in the 8th house. So again, it's like we don't have our own stuff growing up. It's like things always get held over our heads. We're always competing for things, right? There may also be unsavory behavior, trauma, things like that. The stuff we suppress and shove down. Oh, you're welcome, Zelda. You're welcome, Zelda. Um, but we suppress things quite a bit in the eighth house, don't we? The other thing that we do is criminal behavior. That's why I said unsavory type things. Excuse me. Or doing unsavory type things to get money, you know, that can be a thing. But oftentimes it's losses, right? The eighth house is about losses and learning about loss, oftentimes. So, Mars is square Mercury. You're probably a terrible arguer, aren't you? Terrible arguer. You might have difficulty articulating your thoughts, though, sometimes. I see with Mercury in Cancer, it's like spit it out, come on. Like, like, yo, just say it, come on. I get really impatient with Cancer Mercury, you know? But still, you know, it's a very sensitive, tight mind. It is. With Sun and Mercury in the 11th house, you could probably be a bit of an extrovert, or people would like you. You know, it does make us popular, but it's just there's a difficult thought process with Mercury in Cancer. You know, could be very imaginative, yeah, and just it's imprecise with its words and its thoughts. It stumbles over its words. Could be assertive, of course, right? Because Cancer's cardinal. But at the same time, it feels quite awkward, you know. But you would still probably be a forceful communicator and be a bit of a, what's the word? Arguer. And then you have the moon, Scorpio moon, in the 3rd house, right? Which is communication and all that sort of stuff as well. And Mars rules, right, the 3rd house. So there's sort of like reception by sign, kind of, you know, like Mars is sort of supporting the moon there, because the moon is really not happy in Scorpio. The moon is exalted in Taurus, which means she falls in Scorpio. And you can see, right, the moon typically lets the emotions flow, doesn't it? You know, it likes to feel comfort and security, as it does in Taurus, right? It's exaltation. But then in Scorpio, it's the opposite. It constantly feels paranoid. It feels frightened. It feels awkward. It feels unable to be vulnerable or share with others. And there's an anxiety and an anger that come from that, right? And I got a stammer. That's so funny. I'm not trying to be ableist or anything like that. I'm dyslexic, you know, and my Mercury's retrograde in Taurus. But I just see that a lot with Cancer Mercuries. And then you see the moon being very unhappy and ruling the 11th house. So while I said you're probably popular and all this sort of thing, there's a general suspicion of people in crowds and a discomfort with them, probably. Even though you're good at speaking, and I'd imagine that your job or your work would be involved with something to do with connecting with people, speaking, public relations, customer service, you know, that sort of stuff. You're probably good with people, even though you're suspicious of them. Anyway, so we talked about the South Node with Mars in the 8th house being indicative of loss and having to share, not having your own stuff, being told there's not enough and all that. And then you have Jupiter and the North Node in your 2nd house, which indicates learning how to build up your own stuff, your own empire, right? To be constructively selfish a little bit, right? Where it's about effort and earning what you own, right? And ownership doesn't just apply to material things, but also to, you know, the life that you build, right? The 2nd house is also our livelihood, how we get what we want, you know? And Venus rules that, and Venus is at the top of the chart in the 10th house, conjunct the midheaven. So hopefully you were born in 1958, so hopefully you've been somewhat successful, you know? I'd expect a modicum of success. Venus is square Pluto. very closely. Venus is square Pluto. Yeah, you are creepy. Especially when it comes to relationships. Jupiter rules your seventh house, right? So you tend to be, you're fine as long as you're on stage. I mean, that makes sense, yeah. Right? The Scorpio moon stuff, being discomforted with publicity or, you know, attention and things like that. But then, as you said, you might have to do that for work or whatever. So putting yourself on a stage a little bit. Excuse me. Right? And Mercury rules your 10th house. So having to be public in some way. Or whatever, you know. Giving talks or connecting people, customer service, all that sort of stuff, as I said. Customer facing, social relations, I don't know, shit like that, you know. And Moon in the third house is where she rejoices, right? So there's an awareness of using speech to connect with people. But then it's Scorpio moon, right? Ugh. It's rough. It's a rough one. It's one of the hardest moons to have. I mean, I think Capricorn moon's probably harder, but definitely rough. Once again, you know, you got Pluto. I mean, you got Pluto square the moon and Venus. And when I see Pluto square the moon, I think of mama trauma. Like I think of abusive or domineering type mothers, right? And I think of the bipolar coaster, you know? The bipolar coaster. Sometimes we have mental illness. We can soar to ecstatic heights and plunge to unfathomable lows, right? And then with Pluto square Venus, it's like we have this creepy Pluto complex about relationships. Like when we fall in love, we get fucking toxic. You know what I'm saying? It's like we look at love and partners, potential partners, almost like prey. And we get possessive. And sometimes with the Scorpio moon, you know, if you're sort of possessive and all this stuff, but like outward with it, and it's pretty obvious, then we could talk it out and sort of understand it. But when you try and hide it like Scorpio moon does, it can fester below the surface. And stuff like jealousy and resentment end up splitting us up. And Pluto relationships get very, very close. Most of my long-term relationships have been somewhat Plutonian. You know, one of my most recent exes, and I had a lot of Pluto stuff. You know, the long-term ex before them, we had lots of Pluto stuff. Then the long-term ex before them had lots of Pluto stuff. And then my first long-term ex, we had lots of Pluto stuff. And then interspersed within there are a lot of short-term things. But those are probably like the 4 big relationships of my life, at least ones that got very intense, and they were all Plutonian. You know, and we do grow deep roots into each other. Like it's like we share our blood. We want to consume each other. It's like I can feel your heart beating in my veins. Oh, right. And they lend themselves to codependency and sometimes narcissistic abuse. Because again, all the possessiveness and jealousy shit that comes up from that. You know? So just be aware of that. It's never too late to have a new relationship. I don't know if you're married or anything. But it's never too late. You know? Your Saturn's in the 4th house in retrograde, so I imagine Dad wasn't very nice. Dad was not very nice. Oh, and you would need a partner who has their own stuff, right? Who you don't need to support. You don't need to be supporting people. You know, like they better have their own fucking money. Oh, Astro Witch said, I'm loving your hair. Thank you. I mean, I went roller skating, so, you know. Sort of messed up here. Sort of messed up. Thinking I should drop dead, eat shit, go to hell. I could jump head first out the window. Widowed, I'm so sorry, baby. I'm so sorry. Yeah, that's difficult. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm trying to think of what that would be. Jupiter opposite Mars? I have Jupiter opposite Mars, and it can make us quite pompous and didactic. You know, we always think we're right. We're very passionate people. We're so passionate. You know, we have the best intentions while we pave the road to hell. Quite frankly, don't we? Um, you know, it makes us very aggressive about what we believe, a bit of a fanatic. And yeah, I'm a bit of a fanatic, you know. So we see that stuff too. And if you had a penis, I would say it was probably, you know, good size, a little bit larger, and you would know how to use it. But we see the same thing with, you know, vaginas and all that sort of stuff too. Squirty wordies. People who have, you know, people who like to, you know what I mean? Anyway, is true. And yep, I'm sort of pompous. But we should talk about timing and shit more. If anyone wants their chart read, if anyone wants their chart read, Amanda Lee, hello, sweetheart. Hello, hello. Anyway, you see you have the superior conjunction going on in your 10th house right now, which is really cool. You know, it's very good for visibility. The next year, right, with Jupiter in your 10th house is going to be about life direction. You might find yourself changing life direction. You might get pushed in a new way. You might find opportunities popping up that you weren't sure were even there, right? And I mean, you're at a place in your life, probably, hopefully, you know, where you're looking at stopping working relatively soon. But still, there's lots of ways life direction can, you know, or it doesn't even have to be a career thing. It can be, you know, a small business or something that you love to do, right? That you start getting recognized for, or start putting yourself out there more, you know? Mars is going to go into your 9th house, so just watch out being a pain in the ass arguing about politics and religion. You know, you'll probably get yourself into some fights or debates or hot water with people that you know. Mars rules your 3rd house also. So you might get you might get in arguments with extended family, siblings, aunts, uncles, cousins, right? You know, maybe you have like super conservative family or some shit. I don't know. Oh, excuse me. Excuse me. Anyway, we should go on to the next person. We should go on to the next person. Because I don't want to be... See, this was just supposed to be a makeup for people from last night. And no one was here for the first 20 fucking minutes, you know? Except for Zeldy. Except for my dear Zeldy. My dear Zeldy. Oh, wait, we have... Who was next? ZRE? Who was next? It's your birthday! Hooray! Another Gemini. Another Gemini. I thought I had you in here. ZRE. It's the motherfucking ZRE. Snoop Dogg. Hey, nanny no. It's the motherfucking ZRE. Snoop Dogg. That was from The Chronic. From The Chronic. That was a rap album in the 90s. Which you won't remember, probably. No, you won't. You were born in 1999. You won't. Okay, I guess I gotta redo ZRE. It's the motherfucking ZRE. Snoop Dogg. The Chronic. The Chronic. The Chronic. Eminem first showed up on The Chronic too. Right? The Chronic Part 2. How'd that go? Nowadays, everybody want to talk like they got something to say, but nothing comes out when they move the lips. Just a bunch of gibberish, and motherfuckers act like they forgot about Dre. I can't believe I remember that from high school. That's so fucking wild. Oh, gosh. Campbell, Kentucky. Amber's from Kentucky. My homie Amber. Fort Campbell, Kentucky. There we go. Now it came up. Thinking I should drop dead, eat shit, go to hell. And we got a Pisces rising. I hope all your shit's right on here. I've got 0 dark 50 a.m. 0 dark 50. June 4th, 1999, Fort Campbell, Kentucky. God, this fly is driving me nuts. Got a Libra Mars here. Pisces rising like my brother. 13 degrees Gemini Sun. 24 degrees Mercury. Yeah, your Mercury's conjunct my North Node. Look at that. Anyway, oh, Cancer Venus too. I think I've seen this. I hope you're a Pisces rising, my love. Okay, good. Looks good. So you have an unhappy Mars that was stationing retrograde, I believe, right? Yeah. Oh, stationing direct. Oh, Mars was stationing direct. Yes. Yes. That's a good one. See, that's kind of more auspicious. That helps Mars out a little bit, you see. Because Mars rules your 9th house, which tells me that not a great experience of religion as a kid. And Mars also rules your 2nd house, which tells me difficulty with money. Now you have Mars opposite Jupiter again, like the last person and like me. And we talked about the pompousness of, Mars opposite Jupiter. We talk about sexual prowess with Mars opposite Jupiter. And we also talked about, being a know-it-all, being a bit aggressive or idealistic, right? Thinking that your mission is the right one, right? It's, kind of like Don Quixote, right? Just very impulsive, pushing its agenda, oftentimes having very idealistic views and saying, well, this is the right way. And that's the highway. You could take this right way with me or take the fucking highway. Get out, yo. That's quite interesting. But money would be difficult. Although as you get older, as you get older, I imagine it would get easier, you see. Because the ruler of the 2nd house is Mars, who's unhappy, but stationing, right? You got a 12th house moon. Right? When I think of a 12th house moon, I think of someone who struggled with addiction or mental health issues, sense of isolation, sometimes even incarceration, being imprisoned or, having to do some time somewhere. Sometimes it's grippy socks vacations, if you know what I'm talking about. The grippy socks vacation, which really isn't a vacation, but you know what I'm saying? And look, your South Node's in the 12th house, indicating that the first part of your life before, your late 30s is consumed by mental health stuff, right? And very shaky confidence, identity, right? A sense of aloneness, loneliness, isolation. And as you get older, it's about taking responsibility for all these things, right? Learning how to hold yourself to commitments, to follow through with things, to follow up on your obligations, to work on your health, organization, putting structure to your life, because the first part of your life has no structure. Feels like wandering around in a nightmare or an unpleasant dream. And the thing about Aquarius moons too is they're weird as fuck and they tend to intellectualize everything. They act like they can't be vulnerable. They act like it. They want to be. But really it's too terrifying. Like it's scary for them to try and connect and be vulnerable with people. Easier than Capricorn moon, but still difficult, you see. There's a sense of being detached, aloof, or being like an observer, being like, Jane Goodall among the apes or whatever. Or being like an alien, like E.T., just sort of like hanging out around these humans. Like, what the fuck is their deal? So anyway, but the big emphasis with your first house ruler is also about making shit happen, making shit real. Not just talking about things and living in your head, So I wonder if you're interested in history. Because I have Mercury on my IC also, and I tend to be very interested in history. Oh, if you have children, they may have the 12th house issues. So just be aware of that. Moon rules your 5th house. And then, here. So just be aware that that's a possibility. Also, your 8th house ruler is Venus in the 5th house. So sometimes that's miscarriages. Just, again, not trying to be a downer. I'm just saying those are things that I do see with these placements sometimes. Now, the other side with the transits is that you have the superior conjunction here focused on the 4th house. And Jupiter there too. And conjunct your sun, the superior conjunction. So you see, the whole next year is going to be about finding stability and security. And perhaps there will be some sort of benefit, or, when I say fortune, I mean good luck. I don't mean like, oh, tons of money. Although you could get a little bit of money. But something lucky that happens from your parents somehow. That comes from your family legacy, or your dad, or things that your dad left you. Or things from under the ground. The 4th house is also generational wealth and minerals, oil, right? Things that we dig up that are things of value, you see. So there could be lucky things from that. Excuse me. Jupiter also rules your 10th house. So that's very interesting too. Now, because Jupiter rules your 10th house and Jupiter is going to be unhappy in Gemini, it may put strains in your career. Or you might find yourself getting a little bit of a bad reputation or not noticed. So just be aware of that over the next year. And then the following year will be really fun because Jupiter will be exalted, right? So starting May or June of 2025 will be really, really fun for you. That will be the beginning of a year of fun, you see. Mars is going into your 3rd house. So watch out for fights with siblings, extended family, brothers, sisters, all that kind of shit, you see. Just be aware of all that. Can also give you a very sharp tongue. You have Saturn in the 3rd house already. When I see Saturn in the 3rd house, I often think of people who have, learning disabilities, neurodivergence, right? Autism spectrum disorder, ADHD, hyperactivity. Something that gives them a very difficult time in primary school. Right? We think of the 9th house as universities and such, and the 3rd house can sort of be the opposite, the primary school, And that could be elementary up to high school or whatever. But, sometimes there's an intellectual inferiority complex where we just feel stupid. We feel everyone else is smarter than us, even though we might be, we might be good at it. I've seen people who had stammers or stutters with this, and then who eventually became good public speakers, right? Excuse me. Excuse me. Excuse me. Anyway, so that's interesting stuff. Mars will be going through there and causing problems, right? Making you a bit of a jerk. Sharp tongue, saying things that you might regret later. Right? But then you have Venus going into your 5th house later this month after the 17th. So that'll be wonderful. That'll be a lot of fun. It'll be your Venus return. Right? You're a Cancer Venus like me, but it's a 5th house Venus. So even though you're probably very lovey-dovey, you're also probably very horny and very sexual. So, which is all wonderful stuff. You have Venus square Mars too, so that complicates it a little bit. But enjoy that last half of June and first week of July, Enjoy that. That'll be a fun time for you. I like that for you. So, I gotta peel off. It's been a pleasure. Oh, thank you. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you so much for coming. It wasn't on my best game right now, but you know, I'm okay. I'm okay. Oh, I didn't see there was Eric from Anaheim. I'll look at Eric's chart real quick. Eric. Eric! Reminds me of Billy Madison. Eric! I don't know why that made an impression on me. Eric was born in 1995, so I seriously doubt they're aware of Billy Madison. 6:35 p.m. Anaheim. I'm from San Diego, California. We always thought of Anaheim as like rich kidville, you know. I mean, San Diego has some upper areas too. You know? You're welcome, ZRE. Is Eric still here? Eric? Eric? Are you still here, Eric? Another Pisces rising. Saturn conjunct the ascendant. You're having your Saturn return right now, my love, which is fun. Fun for you. Difficult time. Remember, when Saturn is in the first house, we often look for our value through other people, right? Gives us a sense of shaky identity, lack of confidence, all that fun stuff. Yeah, I loved living in San Diego. I grew up in the ocean. You know, I used to go surfing all the time. I used to surf. You know, one of my exes and I used to surf too together. That's the one thing I miss about California is the ocean. I could do without the rest of it, but I do miss the ocean. You know, and I miss my brother and my sister. But, you know. Gosh, and see, this is the thing when you have this shit, because you got Saturn in the first house, which indicates codependency. Saturn retrograde, which also sort of indicates that as well. You know, and sort of a need to find validity and self-worth, valuation, right? But through other people. It's like we avoid ourselves. And then you see you have the sun in the 7th house and the moon, which is total simpy simp, you know? And then the moon in Virgo is also a simpy simp. So you see we have 3 signatures here. 3 signatures of this sort of codependent tendency, right? Yeah, well, it's great because, you know, that gives you an opportunity to build your confidence too. So, and with the North Node in the 8th house, you're learning to let stuff go bit by bit. You know, you're learning to let stuff go. Yeah, see, I don't surf anymore. I roller skate. Now roller skating is my thing. I love roller skating so much. I love roller skating. Mars in the 9th house. So not a good experience of religion growing up, probably. And it makes you a little bit of a fanatic. But Mars is very happy in Scorpio because he rules it. You know? He rules Scorpio. So it does make you a bit more of a philosophical, spiritual, whatever type. And it rules your 2nd house. So something to do with, I don't know, I mean, you might have a job or something to do with academia or religion or the law or, you know, legal stuff, universities, astrology, shit like that. And Jupiter's in the 10th house, very happy. So, you know, I would imagine you getting some modicum of success as you get older. And Jupiter rules your 1st house. Like, this is some very good stuff. So you have these difficult things that indicate codependency and sort of submissive tendencies. But then you have other stuff that really does indicate a modicum of success, you know. Your 7th house ruler, though, is Mercury going retrograde in Libra in the 8th house. So you probably like the bad boys and girls. The bad girl. I mean, I don't know if you like boys or girls or both. But the bad boys or girls, right? The ones who try to get you to do things that make you uncomfortable. The ones that might, you know, sell drugs or scam people, do unsavory things. The kind of people your parents don't want you to be with, you know. It's like, I'm the person that they told you not to worry about. The kind of thing. I don't know. It was some meme I saw earlier. But anyway, in terms of timing, you have Saturn going through your first house, which is a big fucking deal. You see, because it sort of forces us into maturity. You know, we start to face parts of ourselves that we thought were dead, or that we thought we were over, or whatever. When Saturn was going through my first house, it's when I came out as trans. I couldn't keep it inside anymore. I had to come out. You know, I didn't have a choice. A lot of times our appearance changes. We start to feel older and more mature. We contemplate death and mortality. You know, so you might find yourself being a bit more morose or melancholy. That does become a thing, a little bit. A little bit. So just be aware of that. That's the big life motif going on, right? Up until, what? June of 2025 is when Saturn finally goes into Aries. So, when Saturn goes into Aries, excuse me, then you're going to have your material resources restricted. Like I had through this too. Like I've been trying to build up my business and it's been a slog. It's been an uphill battle. Like I'm not doing bad, but I'm not doing great either. You know what I mean? I'm doing fine. I'm getting by, you know? But it's like when Saturn tours the second house, we experience these constrictions where we're being forced to manage our material resources with more awareness, right? And more caution. Now, Jupiter going through Gemini now, everything is focused in your fourth house, right? We've talked about that a little bit. Generational wealth, luck from the family, luck from the father, right? New living situation. Those kinds of things. You see? A revelation of family history, right? Getting some kind of luck from your genealogy or your past. And then, right, you've got Mars about to go through your third house. And when Mars is going through your third house, like it has been for me, you want to watch your words. Like I got into a big breakup, like, over that shit. See, there's only 2 people left. No one gives a fuck. Eric's not even here, you know? Oh, are you? Oh, yes, you are here. Okay. You are here. Well, anyway, I'll finish up really quick, but you want to watch road rage, because we can get into car accidents while Mars is in our third house. For you, that's Taurus. So just be aware, this starts on the June 8th. June 8th. You see? And then Venus is about to go into Cancer on the 17th, which we just talked about. It's a fun time for you. So enjoy it. Enjoy it, enjoy it, enjoy it. Enjoy it. You'll watch your words, my Virgo month. My Virgo month is lethal. Oh, your Virgo mouth is lethal. Yeah, I mean, it could probably be a little nitpicky and shit. But no, it's your Scorpio Mars that's fucking lethal. Like I said, I've had, I want to say 4 partners who've been Scorpio Mars. They can be. They know exactly how to, like, stab you, right? Beck says, this is coming from someone who knows next to nothing about astrology, but I read somewhere that astrological signs can often correlate to certain health trends. What's your take when you're done? Well, I mean, different signs rule different body parts, you know, in different parts of the, parts of the body. Planets typically rule the parts of the body, and therefore the signs that they rule also rule those parts of the body. For example, Mars, rules parts of the genitals, and therefore Scorpio rules the bowels and the genitals, right? So Mars, I think, also has to do with excretion. I'm not trying to get gross, but that's there you go. Sorry, Bex, that wasn't. I was thinking of Mars, So just like the sun rules the organs of perception, right? The eyes, and therefore the head, or Like the eye, yeah. I mean, Aries rules the head, typically. Leo rules the back, right? Pisces rules the feet, right? Gemini rules the hands and the lungs. Virgo rules, like, the digestive area. Cancer rules the breast and the stomach. They all have their things that they rule. Gosh, who rules the nervous system again? Anyway, Capricorn rules the skeleton, the teeth, the bones, the joints. Sagittarius rules the thighs specifically. Aquarius rules the rest of the leg, and the ankles. Anyway, I think I mentioned most of them. But then there's a whole thing about medical astrology, I'm sorry, Bex. I've been kind of rude. Tonight. I should have been nicer. Should have been nicer to people. But anyway, just to finish Eric's stuff up really quick. Yeah, watch the road. And in just a few days, this will be going on. So you want to be careful with all that. All right. Anyway, it's now 6:11. I was just going to do this for an hour, but read somewhere astrological signs can correlate to health trends. I mean, yeah, and then in your own chart, the first house is the self, the whole self, mind, body, spirit, whatever. And the sixth house is specifically injuries, illnesses, enemies, that sort of thing. And also obligations and whatever. But in that way, the sixth house is also our health too. We'll see health complications more and stuff like that with sixth house things and sixth house transits. Or, we'll get prompted to put our lives in order as far as our health goes and organizing ourselves. If it's a good planet like Jupiter or Venus. If it's a bad planet like Saturn or Mars, we could see health complications, or conflicts from it. Bex says, you're fine. Oh, thank you. Thank you. And I'm so glad you came, Bex. I'm so glad you came. Excuse me. Am I turning red? Am I turning red? Let me see the camera. Am I turning red? I think I am turning red. I'm blushing. I'm blushing for Bex. Anyway. So, Eric, I hope that's good enough for you. Also, just the eclipses here are going between your second and eighth houses. So this is a money year for you. So just be aware. The best things in life are free. But you can give them to the birds and bees. I want the money. I think that was an 80s song. Anyway. So, yeah, be careful. This is a big year of your life. A very big year of your life. You'll see your relationship to yourself totally change before we get to the end of next year. So, enjoy it. Won't always be fun, but please enjoy it. Anyway, I love you all. Thank you for coming. This wasn't as crazy as last night. Actually, kind of disappointing. I like the craziness that we had last night. Anyway, thank you so much. Have a good night. Mwah. I'll do this again soon.